All right. So I hope you don't hear the music behind me. Let me test it. Test, test, test. Test, test. Okay, I don't think you hear it. So literally my computer is making a sound. You can't hear it, but it's like inside the computer and it's like and it's very loud, even with my sound, and it just makes me want to like hit my computer and I'm like I'm wondering like, I just did like for a while it was like, one of those problems that would come up and then disappear. But like today, it was like for the majority of my first reading, I'm just like wondering, like, can I actually fully do one? I guess I could record on my iPad, but I thought maybe having music on, like, it's just like my video, like a video game soundtrack. Maybe I won't hear it as loud, but actually, you know what I could do is I could put it on my TV. Whatever. Hopefully, it goes away. Um. Anyways, let me pop everything up. Sorry, one sec. Hmm. To restart my computer, so I'm having to. Yeah, you for real? Okay. All right. So pull this one up. Okay, and this one. Okay. So I will do this reading. I was actually just deciding. Okay. So where is my Timer. Oh my God, stop making a noise. Please don't restart. Okay. And it restarts. Yay. Okay. So, very interesting chart. So we have here is, your 7 a.m. birth time has you, with the sun like exactly at the rising. Um, so, regardless of how close that is, you know, um, you just have, it just makes the sun very, very, like, sun rising, it's like super powerful, but it is really important to know, if that birth time is 7 is exact, because even if it's like, let's say 7:30, 7:45, it's still, it'd still be like a first house sun, but the sun like right on the ascendant, like you have it if you were born at exactly 7 a.m., like your sun is super powerful, on that angle. And you're just like here to, like it's very clear, like when we talk about axes in astrology, like the six opposite signs and how they're all, the same energy but opposite manifestations. So one of them is Leo Aquarius. So it's very clear to me that in this lifetime, that is like the karmic lesson for you is that. And I wonder if you have any squares to your nodes of Uranus. You have Mars and Mars. Okay, so the South node's in Aries with Chiron. So Chiron opposite the North node. So it's kind of showing how um is Mars retrograde? No. 12th house though. So it's kind of showing how in past lives you you had a very kind of forward moving energy, and that's kind of your tendency. You're trying to learn to be more diplomatic in this lifetime and more you know, you're trying to allow, like, there's a certain level of karmic pain that exists within you, and it's something that you have to that's being mimicked in this lifetime. And it could be through a sibling, it could just be in the self-esteem. But what happens is that, you know, to get to you define the balance between Aries and Libra. Aries South Node, North Node, which is, the destiny point, you're trying to get to Libra. You're trying to become someone who is able to be more, who's able to have relationships that are very peaceful, and where there's a lot of respect, where compromise is something that happens. And it seems like in past lives, you've been someone who, you come in this lifetime with natural healing abilities, but there is a lot you have to get past the pain of, being able to assert yourself. There might be some difficulty for you, even though you have sun rising, um, and rightful action. Like, so it's really, really important for you as a 12th house Mars and Mercury. Um, and this is the whole kind of karmic story, is that, the fact that you're a Leo moon and Aquarius sun, and rising, right? And born on that full moon, right after that full moon, um, it just shows that this aspect is what's really, really big in your life, right? And we say, okay, well, what is this this axis of Leo Aquarius? So if someone has a lot of Leo Aquarius, the lessons around that is about individualism. It's about being your authentic self. So there's past lives where you acted in a way that was more in line with the conditioning, and it created some sort of repressed anger that you know, that kind of comes in this lifetime. And if you're not headed in a spiritual inward direction, you can, have a tendency to commit actions that are sort of like they feel like you're like walking around in a useless circle. So, and this is probably more prevalent when younger, this feeling of like deeper, like something, I need something deeper in my life, like what, like if one, you know, and being able to compromise is such a skill, right? So, those two axes are highlighted, Leo, Aquarius, and Aries, Libra. So, you know, the essence, like to paint a picture, like the essence of Aquarius Leo is someone who creates anything, whatever it is, even like a video. You know how like my content, like I make videos, like you see how I'm very, not to like gas myself up, but just an example. How I'm very, very authentic in my videos, right? Like it's the exact same shit I would say if I was like, you know, um, talking to someone in person or whatever. Like I just film myself and talk. I mean, obviously there's some things that like I wouldn't talk about. Like, I'm not gonna like talk shit about someone, even though it's not something I do a lot. But regardless, you get the point. So that is authentic self-expression. Another part of authentic self-expression is that we are, in this lifetime, in this planet, there is so much conditioning, right? We are so conditioned as beings, right? As souls. And when you have Aquarius Leo, you really, really are here to, I'm gonna have to move my computer. I'm sorry. I'm gonna put it farther away so I don't hear this noise. It's really distracting. I'm trying to set up this stand. Is it still working? Okay. So, yeah. So basically, actually, no, I'm gonna do something a little bit special. I'm gonna send this screenshot over to my iPad. I can still hear this fucking shit. Excuse my Portuguese. Maybe on my desk won't. Okay, so let's send this over to my email so I can have it on my iPad when it's not dead. Okay, then okay, put it over there. How can I break the sound? Maybe just music from over there. Okay, and then let me see the sound quality. Test, 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 test. Test, 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 test. Okay, that's so good. Yeah, I cannot stand this fucking noise. I wish you could hear it. Actually, I don't wish it on you. But I wish you would understand. Okay, so oh my God. Anyways, let's pop open the chart on the iPad. Email. Okay, I don't hear the sound as I can kind of hear it, but not like destroy my soul. If I turn some music on. and that will make it all better. Okay, so anyway, have it pulled up here. So yeah, as I was telling you about like Neptune and or about Leo and Aquarius, it really is about yeah, being your authentic self, and moving away from all this condition that society pushes us towards, right? It's not natural to like to think outside the box and with the energy that you have, right? Particularly your 12th house Mars and 12th house Mercury, you can be someone who could be a channel, and someone who's able to like potentially translate the untranslatable into words and terms and all that is understandable by the masses, like very spiritual topics. But a lot of times Mars in the 12th can go through these real cycles of yeah, just meaninglessness if it's not headed towards a spiritual direction. But the thing is, you have a Capricorn Mars, but we'll get back into that in a little bit. So Uranus rules your chart, so you're here to be a rebel. You're here to be different. You're here to break out of any mold imposed on you. And a Leo moon is the internal child, right? I made a post lately that was, um, something about aging, Leo's, the whole like Leo, like, um, never getting never aging on a material on never aging, but still gaining maturity, staying forever young but still gaining maturity. And that is such a very good way to describe Leo, because Leo moons, I know the high vibe ones, they just they're just able to stay like like as kids, even in grown-ups, they're able to just stay in that kind of vibe, and I love it. My mom's Leo moon, and it's just a nice placement. It's very loyal too, but really, like, Leo moons are not so I imagine, with that placement, you're not meant to be like your parents, for example. Like, no, like I mean, I'm not saying anything like because you are born on a full moon, so that usually means that the main messages you receive from both parents are very, very at odds. Perhaps they even divorced or didn't have like a lot, like a very good relationship. Doesn't always mean that, um, but a lot of times it does. So yeah, I just think that like if you have anger, um, it might be interesting to consider that it it comes from past lives of not being able to, you know, I mean, of wanting to, of having, being this very firepower person, but having this pain that kept you away from being able to act, so your soul is independent, your soul is a leader, but there's a certain pain and maybe even fear around asserting yourself that holds you back in this lifetime, or attempts to, and has in the past. Mm, I think it's fine. Yeah, so that's like an Aquarius is an alien, an Aquarius is not human. They are very hard to pin down and understand, but that's why I love them. That's why it's maybe my favorite sign, because they're just so interesting and so intellectual, and like they're open-minded, and they mix this like kind of open-mindedness with this actual intelligence. I think that's I have Venus and Mars and North Node in Aquarius, a lot of Aquarius friends, exes, all that. So yeah, I mean, like Aquarius is really the sign, the water bearer, the one who's meant to be different. And when you're Aquarius rising, sometimes you can, and with the sun, sometimes there can be a little bit of an aloofness, a kind of coldness that some people can experience. And it's just really important to understand, like, Aquarius risings are badasses, like they are not afraid to be themselves, and they will wear, like, they'll dye their hair like the same color as I don't know, just like purple, green, orange, pink, whatever. Like, they will wear what they want to wear. The whole idea, I'll give you a good example of Aquarius Leo, because I'm an Aquarius Leo person. So I was talking to someone in my family who is very, very following trends and that kind of person, like just trying very hard to be cool. And he tells me about this fashion blogger, and I have nothing against fashion, right? Like, for me, like, I just, like, no matter what anyone ever said to me, like, I'm always gonna, like, you know, like, even if I ever, like, I mean, I have been into fashion before, but, like, it's always reflected my artistic taste, what I think is cool, what I like personally. So that is the essence of Aquarius Leo, um, is like, being a trendsetter, but not necessarily for the ego of it, but just for the fact of, like, where's the fun? Where's the color in life? Like, it adds so much color in life, these two signs. And, like, he's like telling me, like, oh, I'm gonna, like, I bought all these clothes, like, this fashion blogger told me that, the football shirts, like, American football, or, I mean, what the fuck am I talking about? European football, I'm a big fan. I've always worn jerseys, right? And my brother's like, oh, yeah, I guess he just says my brother, but yeah, he's telling me, like, oh, like, they're like, this fashion blogger I paid $5 for said that they're cool now. And in my head, I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, I would never, like, what, like, how would I have to be to like only wear something because other people think it's cool? Like, fuck that. And that is the difference. Like, that's the Aquarius Leo. It's like, I don't give a, like, Aquarius part is like the part that there in that situation. It's like, I don't give a fuck, you know? Like, why would it, like, what is the point? I'm down to look weird, like, I'm not gonna do it on purpose, but, like, if people think it's weird, it makes me happy, cool. Because what happens when you're in your authentic self? It's not just how you dress and all that. It's being able to express your true essence and find your true powers, and really find your true purpose. So a lot of people stay locked in kind of this echo chamber, of people who agree with them, and they just have these big, crazy, very, like, dogmatic rules for their reality, and then they just never truly grow. And Aquarius is supposed to be, it is very good at thinking outside the box and just being a different type of human. So that's kind of that. So to master that axis, the difference, though, in the full moon is that, they are very different signs, is that, Leo is a way more sensitive sign. It's very passionate. And it's, yeah, and it's sensitive. Leo moons are sensitive people. I don't give a fuck what anyone says, that Leo moons are sensitive as fuck. So Aquarius is the non-sensitive. And one thing with Aquarius Leo, I don't think this is you, although I've purposely not looked at any of your photos, and I do that with anyone that I think could potentially be a client. I have never seen a photo of you. I think you're black. Maybe not. But you see, that's like literally like the level. Like, I don't know shit. That's because I want to have a completely objective reading. Or wait, yeah, I can't remember. So, anyways, because, like, even if I know, like, for example, like, what someone looks like, and I see, like, a photo of them, maybe I read into it, and maybe, like, the Instagram photo is giving me a vibe, and I know I can still read past the shit, but like I just like knowing nothing. It's just the ultimate test. Anyways, so yeah, so that's kind of what it is, right? Is that Leo moon's trying to find themselves, and to balance out the two, like Aquarius is very social. I mean they're both social. It's actually, of the six axes, to me by far it's the one that, like the signs have the most in common. Um, so yeah, it definitely is something. To have, like, yeah, sun and ascendant versus moon, okay, we get it, but there's also other stuff going on. And this is the first and seventh house, right? So the first house is Aries, seventh house is Libra. So that's once again this idea, this axis. So these two axes are really, really being called out. So let's talk more about those, right? Um, because also, yeah, interesting. Because then your 10th house has Uranus, your fourth house has Jupiter. So you are really trying, so Aries Libra, right? So I believe, like, okay, well, with Aquarius Leo, I really, really feel as though, like, the middle ground is, um, you know, being able to feed that kind of like aloof, like that, like being able to be really, really like authentic and rebellious if you need to be, and have this really individual life. And your sun is also square Uranus, so that's the ultimate place in someone who's an ultra rebel and who doesn't like want to follow any rules, who wants to live life to their own rules. Freedom is everything, and they have a very special life purpose. And sometimes it takes a minute for them to truly, truly find like what it really is, right? Like it can be late, but not always. But the thing with Sun Square Uranus is that you're really trying to make sure that you're not doing the thing where you're just being shocking, just to be, like, you're being rebellious just to be rebellious, right? For example, like someone gives you like good advice, um, but you don't accept it because like you don't want to follow anyone. You see what I'm saying? So, and that happens sometimes to people with, like, lots of Uranus, slash Aqua. Um, let me see. So yeah, like I think that, like, with this combination, it can definitely make someone who is more sensitive than they come off. They might come off distant in relationships. And Aquarius obviously cares a ton about causes, um, like big picture stuff, but then like in their like in their interpersonal relationships, sometimes they it's like out of sight, out of mind, and they need tons of space, tons of freedom. And the Leo side is a lot more like, fixed fire, right? It's passionate. Yeah, it has that passion. So it's really like getting those two to meet. To me, you can do that. I think that this one is met by just having authentic self-expression. Being able to lean into authentic self-expression, I think is really what changes it, here. So, um, let's see. So yeah, as I was saying, right? You understand that, like, because of your past lives, you're here with the Aquarius Leo signature to really find yourself and to really be in that authentic self. Um, Now with Aries Libra, I always say the extreme of Aries, right? Aries being your south node, so the past life tendency, your Chiron, with your pain, your Venus, and then Libra, your north node, and with the same place as your Pluto, your Sirius. So, you really are talking here um about Yeah, so when I think about it, kind of just staring at the chart. Hold on. Okay, sorry. Squats. Okay. Hmm. You know what I see here is I see like okay, so with the Aries Libra, right? With the Aries Libra, we're talking about like Aries, the extreme of Aries is like I don't give a fuck like about, like I'm not willing to compromise at all. It's my way or the highway. Fuck it, fuck it, fuck it, fuck it. You know, it can be, childish, but it's assertive as fuck. But it can be childish and selfish and not willing to compromise. And then like in love, like Libra is the dip. Just in general, it's so good at seeing the other person's perspective, while Aries just doesn't really look at that. But they both have they're good and they're bad things, right? So like, and like Libra is like the extreme of Libra is codependency. Like I can't live without being validated by another human in love, like the serial dater, who just like can't like be okay on their own, right? I'm sure I mean these people exist big time. So if you're trying to move towards Libra and you have a very important signature, when I see Pluto and North Node together, those are my two most important planets for karma. So the ninth house is about truth. So that makes me think that in past life, let me see, 15, 1, 2, yeah, 3. So in the past life, wait, 5, Mika, no, 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 no. So is that gonna be second? You're born in Mass. 15, Mika, no, 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 go away, please. 15, 15. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely like probably a second house, third house. Yeah, it's hard to tell. But the point is this. Um, there's past life wounding to your self-esteem and to your feeling of like being able to move forward. And if we look at your fire houses, what do we see? We have well, we have the moon, but you know, with the moon, with Venus, we look at the water houses, we see, you know, nothing, right? Earth we see and air we see, so we see no water, right? Um, the point though, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but is that this ninth house, right? That is about truth, your worldview, right? We all have a truth, and our reality is based on that truth. So if, you know, like I always say, like if I believe that astrology is real and I'm an astrologer, you know, that's a lot. Or even if I, you know, if I believe in astrology, if I believe in God, if I believe in, you know, the creator, and I believe in, you know, in my spirit guides and all that stuff, um you know, I believe that we're here to make a good impact. We're here to be good people. We're here to you know, we each have independent, you know, different missions, but overall, like, you know, there's things we're here to do. So basically that's my truth, right? Like if I believe that when we die we go, you know, it's all blackness, my, you know, it's a different truth than someone who believes in, you know, whatever, you know. So it's very, very much like you're here to redefine that for yourself, because in a past life you were too, there's a lot of pain that you had around not being able to probe deep enough based on the circumstances you had in that or those lifetimes, right? So, you know, you karmically, you know, you know, with Neptune in the 11th, midheaven 11th Sag, you know, you could be someone that, like, a big part of their career slash their like dharma, what they're meant to do is to learn, you know, and to increase their worldview, because you know you do have North Node there in Libra, but like it's not just that, right? Because that's the axis of Gemini and Sag, right? Which is like, um, you know, the lower mind versus the higher mind, right? So you're here to like, um, you know, get out of like a scattered tendency, past life tendency, and become more single pointed in your mission, in your in you know, single pointed in your vision of what's important and what you study and what you learn, and really like uh growing your worldview, right? So the person who says I know everything, you know, or just believes it, right? Like what I've learned is sufficient. I've reached the point. I don't need to take anything else on. That person is done, because they are, you know, they're believing this, right? They're believing that there's nothing more for them to learn. What the fuck do you think is gonna happen to them, right? Um, and that's what a lot of people who are considered very intelligent, or not by me, but like, you know, maybe they are people who are intelligent, like in terms of IQ or whatever. The thing is that, you know, these same people are often very, very close-minded. So the idea of when the idea of something like astrology comes up, you know, that like people like that are very, very lazy, and they would rather just stay in what they know, what they are taught, blah blah blah, right? Because someone who, you know, in a certain amount of, you know, 50 years, 100 years is going to look like an idiot, because, you know, everything will, you know, develops, told them, you know, they just believe. So it's really about, you know, having that open mind. And also Pluto in the ninth house is often someone who doesn't always feel like this nationalism, I guess. Like they sometimes like grow up in a culture like where they don't always feel so like attached. But really, like ninth house Pluto in its core is about, you know, like it gives you this powerhouse when it comes to finding truth and researching and teaching and learning higher wisdom and all that stuff, right? So, you know, these are very, very important important things, right? Mm. Sorry, I'm just meditating on your chart. Mm. Okay, I think I'm seeing something and quite magical. Hmm. So I think like your chart, this is like the ultimate chart of someone who is trying to understand that relationships, I would not be surprised if you had this very distinct, like consistent relationship pattern in different past lives, and you're here to really break free from that. And the process, of that is is through, the Aquarius Leo energy. So once the more that you value yourself, right, and you are that different type of person, the better. And it's balancing, sun and moon, Leo, opposite Aquarius, right? So it's really like creating your own destiny outside of mom and dad. So a lot of times what can happen there, um, you know, it 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 just yeah, it's like karmically, this polarity, like usually you'd have parents maybe you want to rebel from. Now, if we look at your sun, it's square, it's square. So they both square Jupiter. So there's a T square between Sun, Moon, Jupiter, and it shoots out at 21 Scorpio, which is so interesting because that's your 10th house, and it basically is showing that there's a tendency for you to be maybe overly expansive and overly risk taking, where it could be seen as overly indulgent. It could be seen as, it's in Taurus, so it could be like even hedonistic. It's not the best word, I know, but it's just, I paint pictures. I'm not going for act, just trying to get you to understand like what it could be, you know? So the way around it is to, the way around it is the deep dive within. The deep dive within is the way around it. And there's so many things in your chart, like the 12th house and whatnot, that are speaking to, this like the expand. So way number one, right, is the Aquarius Leo stuff I'm talking about, right? That's the big emphasis, right? And it's okay for you as a first house sun to be selfish in this lifetime. Like that's okay. As long as it's for a better cause, Aquarius for a better cause, it's important for you to be able to not even though your Saturn is in Aries, it's important for you to um to really like with the 12th house Mars, it's really important for your action for you to really understand, because like for you to improve your truth, to like constantly be evolving. I think you're in a good place. I mean, if you agree with the stuff I say, not to pat myself on the shoulder, but like, you seem like a very good follower. Like, um, so, like if you're agreeing with like the stuff I'm saying, like, I mean, that puts you like very high. That's not arrogant. It's just like, a fact. Like, so, that's showing that you in this lifetime have most likely continued to grow and continue to be expand your worldview, have been open-minded. So that's the second thing, being open-minded. And then the other part is the relationships, right? So it's like not having relationships that are overly codependent, but also not having relationships that are overly like not willing to compromise. So yeah, that's very crucial to find that balance, right? So in relationship, and then after that, it's the balance between, like I said, with this T square, because like it's first versus seventh. So it's like it's once again like it's relationship life versus independent you being you life, right? And with your moon on the descendant, seventh house cusp, and with your part of fortune there, you know, they're in the Saturn's there too, though. So, it could have held your best relationships back until after 30. But, there's a case to be made of how do you balance that, because the moon in the seventh house can be a little bit codependent, potentially, right? It can, because it can take so much of its emotional, nurturance from relationships when they're in a relationship. So, it's all about having like a very playful, generous spirit, and just being in your inner child, right? Um, that's kind of like a big thing, I think, with the Leo Aquarius. One second, I'm listening for something. Looking for something. So I think like with the Leo Aquarius energy, it's like Leo's all about passion. Aquarius is very cool. Um, and you know, Leo, it's very like spontaneous enthusiasm. Aquarius is more of like uh strategy, and so like the Leo moon might be do something out of passion, kind of like a certain like the lion, right? Of passion, but like Aquarius side. So it's like how do you feed both mouths? Aquarius side is more like the planner, the cool one. Doesn't do that stuff, right? Doesn't do things that are emotionally led. Um, so yeah, it's the axis of ego, right? And yeah, um, they're both, yeah. Yeah, so I think it's just like Leo can get lost in the heat of the moment, get carried away. And like I said, Aquarius is the genius energy that just sees like everything for what it is. Um, and then just like the me energy that Leos sometimes have, Aquarius isn't like that. Aquarius is like, about breaking free, seeing the big picture, um, you know, just individualization, reinventing the self, right? So to make them work, it's like allowing that Leo part to be inspired by, the Aquarius ability to kind of break free of convention, and not care what other people think, because sometimes Leo can care too much. Sometimes what other people think. You see like the low vibe Leos, right? Um, so it's like allowing Aquarius and Leo to work together. And sometimes there's times where you have to disappoint people, right? Because it's all about your truth. So, and then for Aquarius, um, Aquarius Leo people are one-offs. So like by leaning into the Leo side, the Aquarius can find the appreciation as that like nobody is like me type energy, right? Um, yeah. So I think Aquarius it's a sign of the future, right? Um, so Leo is more about the now. So I think it's cool because like Leo stabilizes one in the power of the present. It's very, yeah, very, very like each moment how things evolve, and then like Aquarius is the future. So those two can work together well. And yeah, and then the big part is like, yeah, the Leo being very personal and the Aquarius being very universal, right? So yeah, going, like balancing me and we. That's it. So, one is the sun, one is Uranus. So the sun is obviously, who you are, your your identity, big personality energy, right? And Aquarius is, it's evolution, it's the electric bolts, the water bear, as I said, right? So, yeah. So sometimes like there can be like God complex with both of those signs, right? Because like Leo can like, like start to think that like their personal energy, um, is like equal as source or something, and then Aquarius, can think that their like personal truth, and this is also Sag, but yeah, is absolute truth, right? And kind of have that like, yeah, I know best. I'm an Aquarius. Blah 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 blah. So Let's see. Okay, so so career-wise, I think that you're like having Neptune in the 11th in the midheaven, 10th in Placidus, like someone who is here to be of service in their career, most likely in some way, or do something artistic, something where compassion, um, can prevail, and maybe they can work in a way that's kind of helping humanity evolve and move to the next step. Where they're able to work with like soul fam, like kind of people that feel like family, brothers and sisters from another mother, and um, you know, stuff like that, right? And yeah, so that's kind of like the stat, like so like if so I always say like if you're like a mutable midheaven, like it's almost like it's not unlikely for you to have career changes. So if that's the case, why have shame for it? What if it was meant to happen, right? What if it was meant to happen? Um, so I wanted to kind of go back to something really quick though. I can't point something because I'm on my iPad, but having so Saturn ascendant, it can just like be really frustrating for the first 30 years about love, but then after that you have like a real ability to have like a very serious relationships, very good for it's popular the or contrary to popular belief, it's actually good for marriage. Um, it creates like some unwanted restrictions, but that's like the first 30 years. Saturn return, what tends to happen is that energy fades away, and you have someone who's able to really like have a lot of maturity and whatnot in relationships. So yeah. Um let's see here. Mm, Esme. Yeah, I guess what I would say is that Black Moon conjunct Jupiter gives you like this kind of like witchy, like I know that sounds like very like more feminine, but like I don't know any fucking better word, just like mystical energy, right? Like um, but it also can like make this, so there's this really important part of your chart with this T square that it it might it could, so you have these risk taking aspects, but then at the same time um the resolution point is in Scorpio in 10th house. So, um, you know, if there is any feelings of like complacency or, I don't want to call it laziness because that's not what it is. It's just like when you think like, oh, I got like kind of the energy of someone who walks into a casino and thinks I'm automatically gonna win. So, but sometimes it can just be a little bit like just it's not horrible, right? Like because it makes great leaders, right? And like Aquarius energy and Leo energy is great leaders. Um, but as I was saying about the Aquarius or the battle is between it's a balance between being single and being in relationships, and I think that the best balance there is being able to be in relationships where you have space because you're an Aquarius, so you're not here even though your North Node is in Leo, so you're trying to have space, but lots of balance, lots of great communication. It could be someone from a different culture, maybe not. But the point is that you're here to, your life is not going to be like the normal average life, right? You signed up for a life that's interesting and fun, which is great. And you gotta let steam out too, right? You gotta like really push yourself to lean into that fire, because the Chiron, so like pushing yourself to communicate could be an amazing thing. And with Venus in the third in Aries, you might be someone who really loves to write, maybe loves to speak, and finding like outlets for that can be very, very good. Even if it's something that you don't show anyone, like a video you make of yourself, right? Um, and you just like almost do like a daily vlog, like you're a YouTuber. I know it sounds crazy, but like I recommend it to people, and I've gotten so much success stories. So yeah, um, so the fact that so Jupiter's down there in fourth, usually that speaks, not always, but at least that childhood like brought some expansion, and it would be in the third in Placidus, so it could speak to like um, you know, good relationships with siblings potentially. But then like it could also be looked at with whole sign as Chiron there, and that could even be looked at as like, but Venus is there. So I would imagine I'm not gonna predict that, but if you have siblings, that is. But it could also just be like, an expansive childhood, where at least you learned a lot. And there's kind of like usually Jupiter in the fourth is like someone who can also like really go into this in dark times, like really like see the bright side. It's a nice placement. And really, really like a lot of like commitment to your family. Um, so that's definitely something big. Um, with Vesta in the sixth, and also a commitment to kind of the day-to-day grind, Um, the day-to-day grind. Um, yeah. So, hmm, 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 hmm. Let me think about this one for a second. So yeah, I definitely think that your sweet spot is when you're in. Well, I'll talk about that a little bit actually. Let's back up. Let's back up, Jesse. So yeah, like career is not meant to be like you're really, you want freedom in your career, freedom and depth, right? You want freedom and depth and compassion. You want to be able to like have like your career slash your dark, like what you do in the big picture in your life purpose mission is meant to expand your truth and expand, always be like new teachers, new like going to new places, right? Like you might, a lot of Pluto Night has people like they like I said, they don't really relate to where they're from, not always. And sometimes they enjoy like living outside the country. But yeah, so let me just see one other thing. It's the square, yeah, because there's also the square with Mercury. Okay, that's huge. Um, oh, look at that. Wait, never mind. But yeah, so that is speaking to the South Node, this node squaring the Mercury as kind of like self, it can be like you being your worst enemy, like any kind of self-limiting beliefs that come from past lives. Um, like beliefs of what is pot, like just kind of like interjects, and it could show up as guilt, and just like kind of like being like overly critical about the self, overly perfectionist. So if there was like family that kind of like reinforce our early experience, that kind of reinforce that, then it's really, really important for you to, and the way to, with 12th house energies, the way to defeat them is through it's through the authentic self-expression, right? And um and really, really like kind of like reprogramming the mind, like really having mindfulness in your life, where you can look at, say, like you can like look, okay, like why do I have this belief about myself? Why do I have this belief? Because like you're trying to get to a point where anything is possible in your mind. And also just get really good when it comes to communication of your ideas and being able to like you know 10,000 Uranus people, like they are here, they want to give a very, very, very important, and like I said before with the square with Uranus and Sun, you know, a lot of times like, maybe it's a father, or, like someone early on that didn't really, see eye to eye of them. When you're Aquarius energies, it's a lot of times you think outside the box, and it's not, in sync with like how the rest of the world sees these things, right? So yeah, where was I gonna go? But I definitely think that have like having the Mars and Mercury together is really, really good, because it gives one the ability to really assert their ideas. And Mars let me tell you this, after 30, like Mars in Capricorn people, a lot of times they have to take on like extra responsibilities when they're early on in their lives, and they have to work really hard, and there's lots of setbacks in the first 30 years. But it's trine Jupiter, which is such an amazing placement, because it gives you this really, really like, it gives you lots of positivity around your like a lot of fortune around the moves you make, especially when they're headed towards the right direction. And it gives you expand like a perspective on your actions. And when it's with Mercury with his squaring the nodes, um, it is speaking to someone who is very, very good for intelligence and very, very good for seeing the big picture. So being able to utilize that to look at, okay, how am I, like in what ways am I defeating myself, right? Huge. So moving past that, when it comes to love, relationships, all that, we're really trying to work with okay, so Venus is in Aries, right? So Venus in Aries, let me get a computer over here and look some stuff. Yeah, get my computer out of my head, even though it's making the noise that makes me want to throw it out the window. That would not be good. Yeah. Um, so, let me actually just put my camera on. Oh, this sound makes me want to jump off. Okay, so yeah. So where was I? Where was I? Yeah. So well, actually, I can say one other thing, because I didn't really I need to say one thing before we move into the love stuff. Having Uranus in this pattern with your Sun and Moon, trine Moon, sextile Sun, it is like this amazing planet for you, right? Where you have this amazing intuitive ability, and it hits your Sun and your Moon. So you see here, I guess you can't really see, but the Neptune, I guess I can go like this. Never mind. So, the Neptune, where is it? Over here. So Neptune sextile Sun, like when you're able to express your like intuitive and artistic nature, like lots of opportunities come. And when Moon trine Neptune is like one of the most psychic placements, so intuitive. And it's like you're able to like have this like real like downloads, like when you're able to calm the mind, like you can have these real downloads that come to you. But it's very important not to over idealize people and to have strong boundaries with people. But it's so creative, so artistic, right? So having an artistic outlet is so massive. And then besides that, with the moon, you have your moon conjunct Saturn, and your Sun opposite Saturn, right? So that's difficult. So we have to talk about Saturn, because moon, even though you have your moon in Leo, it's with Saturn, and that can be really, really like speaking to that your Chiron in Aries, it can make it so asserting yourself is difficult, um, and being in your power, right? And Saturn and Moon, a lot of times, like the mother was rather strict, actually, right? Um, Mother, the early nurturing like had some level of like pushing towards perfectionism, right? Which would have just like brought out the kind of past life Mercury, square nodes, like self-limited beliefs. And it can really, really like, moon with Saturn, it's like after 30, like you like emotionally, I just can't even imagine like you have a Saturnian chart, right? So, that in itself is it makes someone like a very hardworking person, but they'd be very shy, lack self-confidence early on. Um, and it can also be lack of depression, like periods of depression, right? Because the moon in Leo wants to be happy, fun, all that, but Saturn is very cold energy. So usually comes from that, lack of warmth from, a parent figure early on, right? So it's all like really about this growth, self-esteem growth and maturity growth and hard work on the emotional self. And yeah. And then the fact that it has those really nice trines. It also trines Chiron, moon, trine Chiron. So you are, gifted healer. And there's all these talents you have that um you know you can really face like the painful sides of life and help heal people, just with your being, and feel like, lots of compassion for other people's issues. And this is the whole thing with healers, is that they have chart. Like I have not seen one person who's meant to be a healer, which I'm not saying that it has to be your career or anything like that, but you'd be very gifted at it, because you have such intuitive talent and you're not afraid to be yourself. But that's the thing. Saturn is the thing, and that's why it probably took you, I imagine, like the first 30 years were kind of difficult because, perhaps your family didn't agree with your, your view on life and stuff like that. Because like Sun opposite Saturn, right? That is so Saturn is like in heart, it's aspecting your sun and your moon. So that makes one feel like just like, you know 4 steps forward, 5 steps back, right? Like I was saying earlier, like having to like almost like be your own father figure early on, or just having a father figure that's very, very strict, imposing. And it just, it makes one feel lots of restrictions growing up, even though you have Jupiter down there, which probably would have given you the perspective to see these things and understand these things, and kind of like this inner optimism. But still, right, there can be like this real fear that can come, in relation to like how far I can make it, how far I can go in my life, like there's restrictions. So it's really about, creating your own rules, your own beliefs, blazing your own path. It's very clear this is, something that's big in your chart. Um, so we look at, let's see. Yeah. Okay. So so yeah, that's that. So yeah, with the Uranus, as I said, like it can also Sun square Uranus can make someone quite like just so determined to be an individual, which there's lots of trial error that goes into that, and once again, it's like doing things your own way, and there can be like anyone that tries to stop you, so it's like what I said earlier about like sometimes people give good advice, but sometimes people with Sun square Uranus, they just like will never listen to it. So but it does create someone who can be like a very, very like unique leader, and they really, really want to blaze their own path. But yeah, sometimes it can be a little bit like back and forth, and it's really grounding is really, really important. um and then yeah, then you have Sun trine Pluto, right? So that right there makes someone very good leader, someone who's able to like really transform themselves and go through like the death rebirth transformation and parts of their souls. Um, and it's really actually good for this energy we talked about earlier, because it usually does create someone who knows when to be assertive and when to compromise, right? And when they really get like you can become very obsessed with things. um like if you find something that's really aligned with your purpose, you can just like have this intense energy of just powering through. um and yeah, like I said, Mercury Mars makes someone a very good speaker. um and Mercury trine Jupiter is adding that philosophical, like being able to see the big picture, and being able to like kind of talk and understand people from all walks of life, and being able to uplift people through your speech and through your thoughts, right? So it's just about getting, once again, getting past that, the self-limiting beliefs on your own. Okay, so unaspected Venus. So sometimes unaspected Venus, with the fact that your moon is in the seventh, it can create someone who like might judge their life based on like how good their relationships are. You know, it can make relationships like too important, I guess you could say, like in the grand scheme of things. So, for that, it's just really, really key to, it's very key to, to understand that, and to understand that, you know, Venus is ultimately like speaking to, it's speaking to the idea of self-love. So when it's in Aries, Venus and Aries people, they like, they love independence. They love the idea of being independent, and they definitely, hold on one second. All right. Okay. So let's see. Yeah. So yeah, the Venus and Aries people, like I get so many clients with Venus and Aries. It's so interesting. I always wonder why it is. But like they're people who like usually like will be kind of like direct when it comes to dating, very independent, like but they'll go after someone they want, but then they will kind of want to still keep their independence, just like all your Aquarius energy in their relationships, right? Um, and they just like, they have this like childlike, which goes with your Leo moon, like kind of fun loving, way of loving. Um, so like they want to have fun, relationships. And sometimes they can be like hopelessly like addicted to the conquest of getting love, getting love, getting love, and like, grass is greener on the other side. So the relationship needs to remain fresh, and there's this need for action with a partner. And yeah, just very spontaneous, in love, and playful. Yeah, all these things, right? Like they want things to kind of like, they want to have adventurous partners, and not have people who, kind of take away from their love. Um, but yeah, sometimes they can be addicted to the chase, so it's really important to understand that. Um, but yeah, they get to the point, they just say, this is how it is, I like you. Um, with money, you have to be careful because it can make someone like a impulsive buyer, and because it's unaspected, like it's just important to like understand that, and to really think twice, especially with the Jupiter squares, of not overdoing it, right? So you do well to wait a few days before any big purchase, and just see if that desire is still there, right? Um, so that's one aspect. But I think overall, like with your North Node and Libra, you're trying to have like a very fair, peaceful relationship, right? It's balanced. Um, with Juno and Scorpio in the 10th, I have Juno and Scorpio too. That's kind of like your ideal partner should be someone who is able, because you lack water in your charts. When you lack water, it doesn't mean you're like less emotional, because it just, it's water has to do with, but you do have the Neptune aspect, so that really makes up for it, because that gives you that intuitive, that intuition, and the compassion and all that, being able to understand where like really feel like the undercurrents and stuff. But still, you want someone who can also really, really be very loyal and who's taking the relationship seriously at a core level, and someone who, you can, be proud of in terms of like, um, like their position in society, right? Like someone who cares about what they're doing and who's involved in their career, right? And in their purpose, right? But yeah. And then just the fact that, like I said, the Venus is an aspected, so I'll go and say again, like that it's really important to kind of like slow down in that area if you're, kind of too fast. And you know so it's interesting, as an unaspected Venus, there probably was frustrations like in the first 30 years because wanting a relationship very badly, um and then having the universe kind of say nope, nope, nope. That can be difficult, right? So yeah. um so yeah, like and then the fact that your sun in opposite your moon on the descendant, it's always that battle, it's that need for in a relationship, like with Aries, Venus, to always be keeping yourself as an individual in the relationship, right? um but yeah, communication is very, really, really important. And just, yeah, as Leo moon, and yeah, just playfulness, playfulness, and not taking, like, being able to have like a serious kind of like energy at the, like, when it needs to be, but then also like this playful inner child energy, because like that's what, Leo moon, but definitely needs passion, needs needs all that stuff, needs that loyalty. So part fortune of Leo in the seventh, basically it's like your flow state is when you're in, good relationships or partnerships, really close one-on-one. Really, I think BFF relationships are seventh house, like if they're really, really close. But also it could be clients. So it could be if you're working as a healer, and being like an example of other people, and really being in your authentic individual, this is me self. That's where you have, you have your power, your joy in your flow state. So it's really important to avoid distractions and distracting people, places, things that aren't part of that. And yeah, the Black Moon Lilith in Taurus, fourth house, it could, well, I said, I look at that as like a potential like difficulty when it comes to making the changes that are needed. Like sometimes there can be a stubbornness with fixed signs, so Aquarius and Leo, and with the Black Moon Lilith, also T squaring, it just shows that that pushes out towards taking risks, right? Here's Esme. Esme, look at the part of the chart that you need help with. She said, right, your Pluto. Good job, baby. Good job, Esme. So yeah, she's looking at your ninth house. Like she's once again saying, Esmond's always right. Like, you always need to be evolving your idea of truth, because then your truth, I made a video recently where it's like we all have an evolving truth, and then our truth determines what we feel is important for us to do, right? As I was saying earlier. So that is so important for you. And I think like taking risks, like I'm saying here, spiritual risks would be like doing shadow work, right? But I think risks with your worldview and with your career and stuff like that, very important. Um, so, and yeah, like Black and Lilith in Taurus can sometimes just like be like too much with the comfort zone. And yeah, that stubborn refusal to move out of there. Um, so it's just really, really important to take risks in life, right? Um, but yeah, you can definitely be someone who's like someone who speaks out for, the plights of other people. You have past life healing skills that you just have to find within yourself through being in your purpose and your action. Um, so Mars is square Chiron also, so that speaks again to the difficulty of being assertive, right? Feeling, and it could come from like a parent early on where your requests were met with anger, right? Or maybe even being, afraid of your own anger. So with the square of the nodes, that could speak to like that being a karmic thing, where it's either like, you being afraid of your own anger, or you being afraid of if you're doing something like, like let's say like every time you try to be yourself as a kid, you got hit or something by your dad, or you got I don't know, like just scolded or whatever. So it's really like, learning to really be in yourself. So it's all about like developing that strong sense of self-worth, um and just doing things, your way, and honoring your way of doing things, and creating boundaries around people who push, who push you down. um and also like, really reassessing the personal desires, making sure that they don't take over. So, and yeah, like Mars trine Jupiter gives like an endless source of energy, right? So it really can make like sports or like any kind of work that you're interested in, like you have this amazing ability that's in the 12th house. So, it can just really, really feel like the sense of personal power is eroded, like I keep saying. And there can be like these random emotional outbursts out of nowhere, and that loss of direction I was talking about earlier, right? So when you're able to be of service, and find like a real purpose in your life, that's when things get a lot better. Um, Vertex in Virgo, that means your doorway to higher awareness is through, your shadow work in eighth house, through your, a lot, like taking those risks, but also through, through service, right? Through being of service, and, in what I call earth magic, which is Virgo. And then Palace in the seventh makes you really, really good counselor, someone that can like really sit down with people, and be the middleman, and gives you like a lot of wisdom towards like how people react, relate to each other. Um, but sometimes it can make someone like have a little bit of difficulty like sharing their feelings with their intimate partners. And Palace and Leo just gives a very creative mind, someone who likes to kind of play with words, could be a good writer, someone who's good with art. And okay, we're serious. Oh yes, yeah. I said sixth house, like Vesta, is just really, really good for serving others as well, but also like the daily routine, like having like an organization, a level of organization in that. And yeah, even your Uranus being like in Scorpio, it's like that generation. It was like they were really here to really have these intense, death, rebirth, transformation energies. So that is happening in your career. Um, and then like, Neptune in Sag, generation, they had spiritual vision. They have spiritual vision, right? So it's all about like, helping humanity kind of focus on spiritual and like higher truth goals, which is so linked to your chart, right? And it's very, all very, very like inclusive, and that's like why, the world is becoming right now with these people, people who are kind of running stuff in society, the way it is. So, um, yeah. Okay, let's see. So where's Sirius? So yeah, Sirius is with Pluto in Libra. So once again, that just speaks to like, you feel kind of cared for and loved when there's that peace, when there's that beauty in your life, that balance around you. Um, that is extremely important. And in the ninth, it's like, you feel nurtured when you're able to have relationships where you are learning a lot, um and like having relationships with people who, I guess are just nurtured by people in general who help you move towards that higher wisdom. So yeah. I think what else? So yeah, it's also about peace and about like, small gestures and sweet words and like being very good with that. And also, yeah, that's kind of what I see with Sirius and Libra. And they're good at teaching people how to find like, beauty within themselves, right? So it's very healing. And they definitely put others first when they love, very generous. And yeah, just like the chill, serious placement. But like the thing is like have boundaries, because sometimes people with that can lose themselves in fights, and um, you know, they can neglect themselves, and do the Libra thing where like they to not upset the balance, they put themselves down and put someone else up, even if they're wrong. So it's about being strong. Um, and yeah, there's like an appreciation for luxury and nice things, definitely with the Jupiter also in Taurus. But yeah, Jupiter in Taurus also creates someone who's very persistent, like a very persistent like search for truth, definitely. And then yeah, Saturn and Leo, I didn't say about that. That Saturn and Leo people like they just take great pride in their work. And a lot of times they want to work like for some type of recognition and just like yeah. But sometimes Saturn retrograde can be someone who is kind of living some people think that it's like this life is a replay in certain ways. So that one's always interesting to think about. Like repeating some lesson that wasn't learned. And with the squares from Mercury and Mars, yeah, it could very well be you're the only one, self-limiting beliefs and like all the Saturn stuff that gets in your own way. Okay, let's open this up. Div union conjunct ascendant and sun. So union is about like just the important. It's speaking to like the importance of relationships that give you that freedom, but like just relationships in your life. And just like the karmic you know prevalence of relationships, like how like they're very karmic. Ooh, and you have one of my favorite asteroids, not my favorite, Amor conjunct your Venus or your Jupiter exact degree. So Amor is about unconditional love. So I talked to you about using healer, right? Well, when you have Amor, um you like you just have this unconditional love for humanity and for people. It's beautiful. This noise isn't bothering me at all. Yes, it is. So Quara is activated. That one is about actual abuse, but it's with Uranus, so I don't know like what that would do, if anything. But usually that's related to like some kind of like physical or just abuse. But I'm not sure if it would really be activated. You'd have to tell me. I think you have the follow up. I'm not sure. No, do you? If you have the follow up and you want to add the follow up in the current astrology, um, that let me see where you're at. I did yours way before I was supposed to. I probably skipped like 10 people to do yours. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I skipped 12 people to do yours because I just, it was like 15 people or so that bought in like a 2-day period. And I'm just like, whichever one I want to do. So what was I just saying? Yeah. So yeah, just like that's a beautiful thing for a healer to have, just like this ability to like have unconditional love for all, for all. It's the purest, most unattached form of love. And when it's a Jupiter, it makes everything bigger. So super compassionate and someone who can really like heal through their unconditional love. Because think about if you're like you know, like a healer, even if you have an unconscious judgment of your client, it's gonna really affect them. Then you have Eris and Midheaven. Eris is really about it's like the poet, um, it's like this very it's very good for manifestation, um, like lots of passion, willpower. It's very sexual too. Um, and it's this real kind of fiery, burning quality, right? Sometimes it can run a little bit out of control. And so it's just like not it's really really good for the arts and poetry in particular, writing, but just make sure that your passions don't overrun things. Hecate on your Mercury, so that is one of another. I keep seeing the switch energy, so that is another witch placement. So you know, whether it's like something related to like you know potions, the ceremonies, like working with magic, working with like things like astrology. I definitely see it in your chart. So super interesting stuff. All right, that's it. So let me know. Okay, so usually the cost for the follow up is 1 hour, where we talk all about this. We compare your lived experience with what we said. It's very, very important. I highly suggest everyone gets it. Um, and then I also offer the current astrology. Most people do these two together. It's not like a long wait like this. We just schedule it in. We'd probably be like looking, maybe end of August or September. um, and it's a 3 hour reading. First hour, and you can do one or you can do both of them. Most people do both. Um, so the follow up, yeah, just all about the natal chart. Natal chart you get done once in your life, you're done. I mean, you can get done from other astrologers, but you know, like you don't have to. This is your natal chart reading. The current astrology, it's always affecting us, right? Like, I could look at your chart and see, like in a few years you'll have Pluto on your sun and your rising, but you got time. But you've been having Pluto on your Mars, right? That's just Pluto. Um, so yeah. And then right now Uranus, Uranus has been squaring your moon. Yeah, so I mean, it's a whole reading. It's not just transits. I do solar return, which is like the chart of this year for you. The transits, the progressed chart, the solar arc, the progressed moon, um, the progressed moon cycle. So everything really to help you understand. It becomes like a 3 hour reading. So usually the price would be probably like, I think it would be 150 plus, what is it like? It'd probably be around 600, but I'd be happy to do um I'd be happy to really reduce it for you and to do. I know you're a longtime follower. I'd be happy to do it for, let me see. Hold on. What's the lowest I can go? Yeah, I'd be happy to offer all of that for 380. So let me know if you want to do that. If you want to add just the follow up, I would do it for 120. So yeah, let me know. Highly recommend it if it's in your budget or I know it's not easy times for a lot of people on that level, but yeah, it would be really nice to connect. So thank you so much. I hope you love this. I hope it was everything you wanted and more. Thank you. And